Krystian Zimerman playing Chopin's second ballade. Now, Zimmerman won the Chopin competition in Warsaw, in his homeland, 15 years after Maurizio Pollini had done in 1975. And like Pollini, Zimmerman was still a teenager. Chopin has been at the heart of Krystian Zimerman's career ever since. He plays and knows the whole of Chopin, of course. Yet he's recorded only a handful of discs, a result of his fastidious approach to the recording process that means he won't release anything unless it lives up to the almost impossibly high standards that he sets himself and his recording engineers. But Zimmerman is no recluse. He's a man who wears his politics on his sleeve, and he plays concerts every year all over the world. And he's devoted himself to Chopin in this bicentenary year, taking his own piano on a world tour in programs dedicated to Chopin's sonatas, pieces he feels are the best of Chopin, but which he's never released on record. Late on a wet and cold Sunday night in London, just before his recital at the Royal Festival Hall on the South Bank, I met Krystian Zimerman.
That must have been an incredibly honest guy somewhere. This music is readable by anybody in the world. You know, I was on so many continents with it, and people have no problem in understanding it. And indeed, if we look deep down into the soul of people, we all want the same thing, regardless of cultures, regardless of places where we live. We basically want the same thing. We're looking for stability, we're looking for love, we're looking for, having food, being with someone, and so on. Simple things, in fact. The rest is a variation of all this. But I'm living at this point, I'm living on 3 continents now, because I live in New York, I live in Tokyo, and in Switzerland. And I'm astonished to say that so different these cultures are. Somewhere the people are the same on these 3 continents. They talk about the same things.
And Chopin does the same thing to these audiences on the 3 continents.
And Chopin, Chopin's music is touching so deeply at the root of all this that it's readable by every culture and by everybody.
How does it do it then? How does Chopin
I don't know,
do
that's what's called genius. I have more and more respect to this guy. And when I was 18, I played it in a way natural, it was...
Well,
it had other advantages, of course.
When you won the Chopin competition in 1975, at the age of 18.
It was clear, it was easy. Now I look at the text and I know more about it, and I'm more and more astonished how genius it is.
Zimmerman playing Chopin's first piano concerto in 1975. And here he is in 1999 with his hand-picked orchestra specifically for Chopin's 2 piano concertos and nothing else, the Polish Festival Orchestra.
Another problem in judging all this is that we judge it from the other end. I mean, we judge it through Tchaikovsky, through Scriabin, and neo-romantic music, Mahler, and so on, and the 20th century. But we should actually forget all this and go from the other side, from Bach and Mozart, and then be exposed to these alterations of the chords and so on. And then we're ready to realize how fantastic revolutionary this music is at this point.
Okay, what are the new kinds of feeling? Because you can say what he does and what he does that's
you
new,
can
what
just
he does that
analyze to a certain extent. And I don't want to go into musicology now because it's not my intention. But I think they were around long enough to get used to the classical forms so that they inhaled it, they had it in the system. And they could feel comfortable, take it as a system, and improvise around this. He's actually doing a lot of new things, and it's so easy and so natural, and it doesn't really disturb anybody. It's phenomenal.
Is it easy and natural to play for you?
Musically, yes. Musically, it's easy to play. because it all speaks for itself. You don't have to do anything in order to play this music.
What about Chopin's Polishness? I mean, do you feel that you have an especially easy relationship with him, or especially lovable relationship between you and Chopin because of your shared national identity?
If you would have asked this question when I was 18, I would say no, because I thought everybody's like this, you know. And then I heard people coming from different continents. And remember, I'm coming from a time where globalization was still in the beginning. And suddenly I hear this guy playing. I said, what is wrong? He's playing all the same notes. He's playing really every description which you can find in a music, absolutely 100% faithful to that. And yet the music sounds absolutely different. What is wrong? And very interesting was the statement of Mr. Zhuravlev, the person who created the Chopin competition in 1929. And I asked him once a question, what made you do this competition? And he said, you know, we coming from a time pre-phonography. Phonography didn't have this impact on the people on globalization.
Pre-recording.
Yes, pre-recording. And everybody played so different. And what we did, we tried to make some kind of standard of what we think Chopin should be played.
So that was the idea of the competition, to preserve a kind of standard.
To preserve this tradition, to preserve a certain culture for the people in the future.
But a certain Polish culture.
Yes, I mean, its Polishness is also different in different pieces, in different forms. It's extreme in the mazurkas. It's a completely different case in a sonata, where you can't really nationalize things. And basically I'm against all these things, because we live in a time of unified Europe, and we live actually in a fantastic period of time where these people actually in 27 countries decided not to kill each other, but to do something together. And I find it wonderful.
But we lose something if we don't celebrate the difference. For example, Chopin leaves Warsaw at the age of 20 in 1830. Doesn't come back. He becomes more Polish than he was in Poland. A more committed Polish nationalist.
Isn't that funny? He comes to Paris and he becomes more Polish than he was in Warsaw.
And that does go into his music.
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. But you know, if you lost something and you become more mature, he also becomes a man at this time. I think you become more aware of where you belong, where you come from, who you are, and so on.
So how does that go into his music then?
You want a figure now? Or what shall I say? Describe me a taste of a lemon. How much? How sour is it? How yellow is it?
Yeah, fair enough.
Okay.
I just want to come back to your relationship, though, with this, because it sounds like your own relationship with your Polishness and the Chopin's Polishness, if you like, has changed since you left Poland, and since you've now become, you know, living on 3 continents, you've now become an essential figure.
Absolutely.
So, in a way, your own relationship with this Polishness mirrors Chopin. So, tell us about that.
You know, it's the same thing. When I arrived in Switzerland, I was afraid that I will lose the language, I will become less Polish, at some point I will be something, because, you know, the Swiss will not accept me to the end as a Swiss citizen.
And when was this?
It was 81.
81, so
yeah,
you
I was
were
24, 25.
So similar age to when Chopin left.
I have to tell you one thing. I learned from Switzerland, from these people in the villages, actually a very nice side of patriotism. Something I didn't learn in Poland. Our Polish patriotism tends to go on the side of, you know, nationalism, chauvinism, xenophobia, and all these negative things are added to this. We don't feel it, but it is there somewhere. And in Switzerland, I became a better Pole. This is funny to say, but it's not really in arithmetic which you can use how much you lose, how much you gain from another country. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you become more Swiss that you become less Polish.
Did you become a better Chopin player after you left Poland?
I don't know. I don't really know.
Do you regret the way that Chopin has, in a way, for some Poles, is associated with nationalism, indeed
I think it's regrettable when people use it for the wrong purpose. And it happens now and then. It was used in a time of, the communism, where, funny enough, certain pieces you couldn't play.
In the communist time?
Yeah.
Why not?
Because they were regarded as religious, which was an absolutely insane thing. For example, the first scherzo, the C minor scherzo, has in the middle a quotation from a song, a religious song about, oh Jesus, sleep, or something like this, a lullaby. And to play this in some kind of official moment would be regarded as an absolute faux pas.
That's amazing, but it shows in a way how electric the meaning of this music is and how powerful.
But again, you must understand, when the pendulum is once pushed in one direction, then to find the middle again is very difficult, because the first thing what will happen, the pendulum will go out in the other direction as far as it was before in the wrong direction. So what happened after the period where the music of Chopin was forbidden to be played in Warsaw, because in a time of German occupation, Lutosławski tells me if you played Chopin you could get to prison, you could get to a concentration camp.
Because the Germans didn't tolerate
Yes,
Chopin.
they didn't tolerate to play Chopin in Warsaw. And you must understand where all these people are coming from, and we cannot expect balance from them when they experienced concentration camps, when they experienced, the parents being killed on their eyes, I think it's the duty of our generation, who is born after the war, to try to ease these problems and try to find solutions which are not aggressive, because you will not make friends with the Russians the moment you put rockets on them.
Growing up as somebody studying the piano in Poland, I mean, Chopin was there, from day one at the piano with you, was he?
Oh, from day zero. I probably heard more pieces of Chopin before I was born than the months after. We made music every day at home, and Chopin was always there, so that must have been heard before I was born.
Was he the biggest figure when you were learning the piano, for example? Did you play more Chopin as a tiny...
I wanted to play always Chopin, and my teacher got actually into big trouble, because when I was 8 years or 9 years old, I played the first piece of Chopin, and the other teachers, which were much older, said, this is completely forbidden. I mean, he's much too young to play Chopin.
What was the piece?
I can't remember.
You can't remember the first piece of Chopin you played?
I studied the whole music of Chopin at this time, so I can't really remember which piece was the first one. And I would put the music on the stand and would just sight read. That was the greatest fun. We didn't have a TV set. We didn't have computer games or stuff like this. That was as much fun as you could get.
Was Chopin more fun for you than any other composer? Did his music speak to you?
Why do you want to know that? I mean, it's
an interesting question, I think.
I don't think it's an interesting question. It's why is it important that it's more than another?
Well, no, I just wonder if when you were sight reading at the piano as a young pianist, whether it would be the volume of Chopin nocturnes or mazurkas you pick up before Mozart or Beethoven sonata.
I liked Rachmaninoff too. I was crazy about Rachmaninoff at this time.
Yeah, okay.
I loved Beethoven at this time. I loved various pieces of Schumann. I loved Mahler, 10th Symphony. I was sick hearing this piece. I was absolutely sick for weeks.
When you were a child.
I couldn't do anything else, just listen to it.
Now, the reason I asked about the first thing is because those first experiences imprint themselves on the soul in a strange way. And if Chopin was there at the beginning, then he's in your soul then, as opposed to if you discovered him when he was 15 or 16.
He certainly is, and it's a very natural thing, calling back this music. And I was wondering, what to do on his 200th birthday, because for the last anniversary I did the Chopin concertos, and I realized the pieces I respect most are the sonatas. And these are extremely tricky pieces. These are really the most difficult pieces he wrote.
But you've never recorded these pieces.
Although I tried so many.
The legend has it that there are many tapes in Deutsche Grammophon's vaults, but you've never allowed them to be released.
They're not finished. It's nothing to release yet. And my first contract to record them dates 1976. So it's a really long-term project.
Do you intend to finish it?
I would love to do that. I would really love to do that. Each time I'm starting, what comes out is so far from what I hear inside, and so much confirms that music is not sound. And these sonatas are not about sound, they are not about piano playing even. He's using the piano. The piano creates sounds, it's okay. But if you start to play piano and if you start to make sounds, and that's what phonography is asking you to do, you lost, and you will never record them.
What are they about then?
It's basically what I'm trying to do is to reconstruct the emotions which made this man write these pieces. And that's what I'm playing in a concert. And I'm using all kind of ideas. For example, recently I was doing the Marche Funèbre as I remember it from my childhood. You know, I lived next to a church. And every now and then, this conduct was just passing my window.
The funeral procession.
Yeah, the funeral. And I could hear this orchestra already from very far. And you never notice the moment of the beginning of hearing it. You just notice it's there at some point. And then I intensely listened when they passed. You could hear this phenomenon of dynamic and loudness.
They were playing the funeral march of Chopin,
yeah,
right? In an arrangement for a band.
Exactly. And they played exactly as loud when they were passing my window, but at some point I couldn't hear them anymore. It went into zero. And this is an effect I'm trying to mimic in a concert hall. It's very difficult to do.
But just to be completely clear, you want it not to get quieter, but to sound like it's going away.
I want to have the impression of fortissimo until the last note, but I want the people not to hear the last note anymore, because the orchestra is so far.
Right.
But asked, these people should answer, okay, the pianist was playing loud, just the piano moved away.
Got it. The finale of Chopin's Second Sonata, Ghosts in a Graveyard, it's been compared to. It lasts, a minute and a half, depending on how fast you do it. Where on earth does that music comes from? That's unlike anything that's been written before. It's a finale of a huge sonata. That's a minute and a half. Where do you think it comes from? What do you intuit were the emotions that he was going through?
Look at this courage of this man, leaving this as a finale of a sonata. This is unbelievable courage for a composer. And this is different than anything else written before. It's atonal. I mean, this is going, years ahead of his music at this time.
Do you find it a frightening piece?
I find it a scary piece. I'm absolutely finished after playing this piece.
So you feel scared by Chopin's ghost, literally, and the ghost he creates in that music?
There are concerts where I have a feeling, I will not survive it. I never played in the winter before, and I never played around certain dates which mark, certain anniversaries of things which happen in my family, with my parents and so on. And now, because of this tour and because of the choice of the repertoire, there was no plan B, so I had to play these pieces on that very day, and you cannot imagine, I was completely freaked out. I thought I would not survive the concert.
So, in other words, playing funeral marches and music that's about death in some way around the anniversary of you.
Yes. It was really on the edge. It was one of the scariest things I did on stage.
Do you think that got close, though, to the emotions that Chopin must have experienced that made him write the music? Okay, it might have been terrifying for you, but maybe you got closer then to understanding why he wrote it.
I don't know what I thought about it. For me, it's enough to be with this music, to be this victim of this music.